नमस्ते। आज 10 जुन 2025 को दिन म यो अर्जेन्टिनाको कालाफाते आएर कालाफातेबाट चाहिँ नि 80 किलोमिटर्स पर लेक अर्जेन्टाइनमा आएको। अहिले यो 4 स्क्वायर किलोमिटरको पहिलो ग्लेसियर देखिएको छ। हामी हिँड्ने जाने क्रममा अहिले यहाँको 10:30 बज्यो। यो चाहिँ एउटा सानो ग्लेसियरहरू मध्ये पानी पग्लिरहेको ठाउँ चाहिँ यसरी देखिएको। इट्स ब्युटिफुल दो। अनि यहाँको पानीलाई चाहिँ मिल्की वाटर भन्छ अरे, अदरवाइज ग्लेसियर वाटर पनि भन्छ, ग्लेसियर मिल्क, अदरवाइज मिल्की वाटर भन्छ अरे। न ब्लुइश न ग्रिनिश, तर अलिकति व्हाइटिश टाइपको। अब यो पहिलो मेन ग्लेसियर देखिन थालेको छ 135 मिटर्स टलको। यो माथिबाट हिमाली पहाड देखिन्छ, यहाँबाट सायद मेल्ट हुँदै आएको होला। यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ नि ग्लेसियरको साइज बढ्दै गएको मानिन्छ। यिनीहरूले एभिडेन्सहरू कलेक्ट गरेर राखेका छन्। आइसबर्गहरू टन्नै देखिन्छ यसको छेउमा, एकदमै अप क्लोज। यो ग्लेसियरहरू एकदमै क्लोजबाट सायद 200 मिटर भन्दा नजिकको क्लोज डिस्टेन्सबाट देखिएको छ। यो कति चाहिँ यहाँ हेर्दा हेर्दै झरी पनि रहेको छ। इट्स ब्युटिफुल। यो चाहिँ असाध्यै राम्रो ग्लेसियर देखिएको, असाध्यै राम्रो ग्लेसियर देखिएको छ यहाँबाट एकदमै नजिकबाट। दिस इज एज गुड एज इट गेट्स। यति राम्रो नेचरको डिफ्रेन्ट साइड। यो कालोहरू भएको चाहिँ नि पल्युसन होइन अरे, यो चाहिँ नि ब्ल्याक स्टोन यिनीहरूको रक जस्तो हो भन्थ्यो एक्सप्लेन गर्दाखेरि। तर इट लुक्स सो ब्युटिफुल। इट्स अमेजिङ टु सी द्याट लाइफ एक्जिस्ट इन अमङ दिस हार्ड एन्ड स्नो। अब यो ठाउँबाट चाहिँ नि हिँडिरहेछ। अब यो ग्लेसियरलाई बाई बाई भन्दै यहाँबाट निस्किराखिएको छ। एउटा नौलो अनुभव अर्जेन्टिनाको पाटागोनियाको यो ग्लेसियर विभिन्न आइसबर्गहरूको छेउमा। अब यसपछि पेरिटो मोरेनो भन्ने अर्को ग्लेसियरमा गइन्छ। यो पानी बगेर आएर माथिबाट बनेको यो ग्लेसियरको साइडमा फेरि रुखो सुखो अर्को जमिन देखिन्छ, जसको छेउमा पानी बग्दै आएको यो स्प्रिङ पनि देखिन्छ। यसको माथि अहिले पनि पानी बगि नै रहेको छ। यो चाहिँ नि अर्जेन्टिनियन लेकमा आएर मिसिएको छ, माथि कुइरोले डममा ढाकिएको। यस्तो यो फाटाफुटा ग्लेसियरहरू, यो आइसबर्गहरू यो भिडियोमा देखे जस्तै सानोतिनो आइसबर्गहरू यो ग्लेसियरको छेउमा देख्न कमन नै हो। The glacier in Patagonia region in Argentina. अब यो बोटलाई पार्क गरेर 12 बजेतिर यो ठाउँमा सानो आइल्यान्डमा उनीहरूले घुमाउन ल्याइरहेको छ। यो ठाउँमा टुरको लागि about 45 minutes break.
We are in a national park, so how is it possible to find private houses and cows in the national park? To understand this, we have to go back in time English. Perfect.
अहिले यो बोटलाई यहाँ रोकेर 45 मिनटको ब्रेक दिएको बेलामा यो ठाउँमा ल्याएको छ। यसलाई पुएस्तो लास भाकास भन्दो रहेछ। यो ठाउँमा यसरी चाहिँ नि भिडियोहरू देखाइएको छ। यसको छोटकरीमा स्टोरी भन्दाखेरि 1500 तिर चाहिँ नि मान्छेहरू आएर पहिला स्पेनिसहरूले चाहिँ नि डिस्कभर गरेको ठाउँ रहेछ। अब उनीहरू गोल्ड र सिल्भरको लागि आउँथ्यो, त्यो केही नभेटेपछि यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ नि पाटागोनिया रिजन भनेर एउटा पाटागौन भनेको चाहिँ नि पोर्टुगिजमा बिग फुट भएको मान्छेहरू, छोटो खालको कदको मान्छेहरू देखेर उनीहरूले पाटागौन भन्थ्यो अरे। त्यो पछि पाटागौन भन्ने शब्द पाटागोनियामा कन्भर्ट भएको, स्पेनिसहरूले कन्भर्ट गर्यो भन्थ्यो। र पछि चाहिँ नि यो ठाउँमा ब्युनोस एयर्सबाट अर्जेन्टिनाको बुनोस एयरेसबाट चाहिँ नि यहाँ पछि मान्छेहरू आयो भनेदेखि यिनीहरूलाई गाई भयो भनेदेखि चाहिँ नि सजिलो हुन्छ भनेर 2-4वटा गाई पठाएको थियो अरे, कतिवटा पठाएको थियो थाहा छैन, त्यो उसले भनेन राम्ररी। तर गाई ल्याएर चाहिँ नि डोमेस्टिकेट गर्ने, पालुवा जनावर गर्ने भनेको पहिल्यै आएर उनीहरूले चाहिँ नि अलिकति वाइल्ड एनिमल भएछ। अब त्यो वाइल्ड एनिमल चाहिँ नि 1800sदेखि अहिलेसम्म यो पाटागोनियामा सबै छरिएर बसेर चाहिँ नि एकदम वाइल्ड भएको छ अरे। अब गभर्मेन्टले चाहिँ नि गाईलाई गर्नको लागि को मान्छेहरू यहाँ आएर बस्छ र उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ नि गाईहरूलाई चाहिँ नि भेला पारेर बोटमा हालेर लग्नुपर्छ र स्लटर हाउसमा लगेर काटेपछि चाहिँ नि मासु बेच्न मिल्छ भनेर त्यसरी गरेको थियो अरे। अनि यो घर चाहिँ नि बनाएको एउटा हेनरी भन्ने मान्छे, जसले चाहिँ नि 58 इयर्स हुँदाखेरि 1932मा जन्मेको थियो अरे ऊ चाहिँ नि। अनि यो ठाउँमा आएर उसको वाइफसँग चिलियन वाइफ बिहा गरेको थियो अरे। 6 वर्ष जति बसेर 2018मा यहीँ कालाफाटेमा मृत्यु भएछ उनको। उसले चाहिँ नि अनि के गर्थ्यो अरे भनेदेखि यो ठाउँमा आयोडिन छैन माटोमा भन्ने थाहा पाएपछि नुनमा आयोडिन मिसाएर यो ठाउँमा यता कतै चाहिँ नि राख्थ्यो अरे। र गाईहरू चाहिँ नि नुन चाट्न आउँदाखेरि त्यहीँ भेला पारेर धेरै गाईहरू लिएर उसले चाहिँ नि पठाएर त्यसरी गरे अरे होइन। त्यसको स्टोरी चाहिँ यही हो अब छोटकरीमा भन्दाखेरि। र अहिले चाहिँ कोही पनि बस्दैन, मान्छेहरू कोही पनि अब यो ठाउँमा आउन मान्दैन, यहाँ खास गर्ने केही पनि छैन। अब घना ऊ छ। अब इनफ्याक्ट एउटा समयमा एउटा फ्यामिलीलाई 20,000 हेक्टर ल्यान्ड दिँदाखेरि पनि मान्छेहरू आउन मानेन भनेर यहाँ टुरमा यसरी एक्सप्लेन गरिरहेको छ उनीहरूले। पाटागोनियाको यो कोर ठाउँमा कस्तो राम्रो ठाउँ छ भनेदेखि अब यस्तो ठाउँ पनि पहिला चाहिँ नि स्पेनिस एक्सप्लोररहरूले एक्सप्लोर गर्यो। अब यिनीहरूको लागि मेन कुरा भनेको गोल्ड र सिल्भर थियो, जुन कुरा यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ पाएन उनीहरूले। र अरू कुरा के यो खेतीपाती गर्ने मिल्ने ठाउँ थिएन, छोडेर गयो। तर अहिले टुरिज्मको लागि चाहिँ नि 1937तिर त केही खास कोही पनि थिएन, त्यस बेलादेखि चाहिँ नि नेसनल पार्कको डिक्लेयर गरेको छ। मान्छेहरू अहिले चाहिँ धेरै आउँछन्, एकदम फेमस छ। यो अर्जेन्टिना लेकको वाटर जुन अहिले देखिएको छ, यो लेक चाहिँ नि ग्लेसियरबाट आएर बनेको पानीले हो। यो चाहिँ इभेन्चुली गएर अर्जेन्टिना साइडमा जुन एटलान्टिक ओसन छ त्यसमा मिसिन्छ, र अदर साइडमा चाहिँ पेसिफिक ओसन छ। एउटा काबो भन्ने ठाउँमा साउदर्न ओसन पनि इन्डियाको गङ्गा जमुना सरस्वती भने जस्तै एकै ठाउँमा मिसिएको देख्न पाइन्छ। त्यो चाहिँ यहाँबाट 100 किलोमिटर्समा पर्छ अरे। जुन यहाँबाट सेरिन ब्युटी देखिन्छ, यो बोट रोकेको 1 घन्टाको लागि यहाँबाट हेर्दाखेरि यो अर्जेन्टिना वाटर माथि ग्लेसियरबाट मेल्ट भएर पानी आएको ठाउँ देखिन्छ। र अर्को चाहिँ यहाँ पहिला पियर रहेछ, जहाँबाट चाहिँ गाईहरूलाई कलेक्ट गरेर बोटमा हालेर लगिन्थ्यो अरे। यसको एभिडेन्स अझैसम्म देखिन्छ यहाँ। यो हिलको पछाडि एउटा घना बस्ती छ अरे, जहाँ एउटा बोटले टुर चाहिँ ल्याउँदो रहेछ, तर मान्छेहरू कोही बस्दैन रहेछन् यो ठाउँमा। जे होस्, यो कालाफाते आएर पाटागोनिया रिजन घुम्न आउँदाखेरि आउनुपर्ने एउटा ठाउँमध्ये ब्युटिफुल ठाउँ छ यो। अब यो ठाउँ छोडेर हामी पेरिटो मोरेनो जुन स्पेनिस एक्सप्लोररको नामबाट राखिएको थियो त्यो ठाउँमा गइरहेको छौँ। जुन हेनरीले काउ पालेको भनेको थियो, त्यो काउको बथानहरू अहिले यहाँ पास हुँदाखेरि देखिराखेको छ। टाढाबाट जङ्गली काउहरू, जुन वाइल्ड काउहरू भनेर उनीहरू माउन्टेन रोड जस्तो गरी हिँड्न पनि सक्छ भनेर एक्सप्लेन गरिरहेको थियो उनीहरू। तर गभर्मेन्टले चाहिँ नि अब निकाल्न खोजिरहेको छ। अबाउट 5000 एउटा जति छ अरे अझै। नेक्स्ट अफ कुर्साला ग्लेसियर भनेको चाहिँ पर देखिराखेको छ। 605 स्क्वायर किलोमिटर्सको छ अरे, 60 मिटरको उचाइ भएको। र यति डिप छ अरे कि तल आइस बर्गले चाहिँ नि तल भुइँमा पनि छुँदैन अरे। दुईतिरबाट पानी परेर बनिरहेको ग्लेसियर मानिसहरूलाई चाहिँ यति खतरा छ अरे कि त्यो नजिक पनि जाँदैन रहेछ, एक्सप्लेन गरिरहेको छ। र यसपछि चाहिँ नि अर्को पेरिटो मोरेनो भन्ने ग्लेसियरमा पनि लिएर जान लागेको छ उनीहरूले। यो चाहिँ नि अर्जेन्टिनाको कालाफातेमा रहेको पेरिटो मोरेनो ग्लेसियर हो र स्पेनिस एक्सप्लोरर पेरिटो मोरेनोको नामबाट नामाङ्कन गरिएको यो धेरै लामो माउन्टेनस रिजनबाट ढाकिएको छ हिउँले भरिएको पहाडबाट यहाँबाट हुँदै हुँदै वरिपरि यो अहिले देखिरहेको चाहिँ नि पेरिटो मोरेनो ग्लेसियर हो यो म्यासिभ वाल छ यो गेम अफ थ्रोन्समा देखाएको स्नोमा ऊ जस्तो वाल जस्तो पेरिटो मोरेनो ग्लेसियर अब स्पेनिसले एक्सप्लोररले पत्ता लगाएको वाउ अमेजिङ यो पेरिटो मोरेनो भने चाहिँ नि अर्जेन्टिनाको लागि फादर अफ नेसनल पार्क भनिँदो रहेछ ऊ चाहिँ नि धेरै कुराहरूमा प्रख्यात छन् उसलाई एकदमै रेस्पेक्ट गर्दो रहेछ र एउटा आर्मीको ल्युटेनेन्टले चाहिँ नि उसको नाममा राखिदिएको उनले चाहिँ नि आफैले यो ग्लेसियर कहिले पनि देख्न पाएनछन् तर कम्पेयर गर्दाखेरि अमेरिकाको जोइन मुयर भने जस्तैको इक्विभ्यालेन्टमा उनलाई मानिदो रहेछ यो ठाउँमा र फेरि यो कालो देखिएको फोहोर होइन वास्तवमा तलको बेड रकबाट आएको त्यो रकको हो भन्थ्यो The whole thing is the glaciers of Patagonia, Perito Moreno of Patagonia. Perito Moreno way up close. This continues. Looks majestic. पेरिटो मोरेनोको यो वरिपरि यस्तो देखिन्छ एकातिर पहाड र अर्कोतिर फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि यो कन्टिन्युएसन अफ ग्लेसियर्स र चाहिँ नि अर्जेन्टिनाको फ्ल्याग फरफडाइरहेको यहाँबाट चाहिँ नि पोर्तो मेरिनोमा ड्रप अफ भएर अर्को राउटमा गइराखेको छ अब पोर्टो मोरेनोमा उत्रेर तल नजिकैबाट आइसबर्ग हेर्न आएको तर अहिले अब यो कुहिरो लागेकोले गर्दाखेरि अहिले 20 मिनट अगाडिसम्म परबाट हेर्दा क्लियर थियो अहिले क्लियर छैन जसले गेम अफ थ्रोन हेरेको थियो उनीहरूले बुझ्छन् यो पेरिटो मोरेनोमा उत्रेर आइसबर्गलाई क्लोज लुकअप हेर्नको लागि आएको तर एकछिन अगाडि क्लियर थियो अहिले क्लियर छैन यहाँ आइसबर्ग यो ग्लेसियरहरू नै ठुलो वाल छ थिक वाल छ यहाँ देखिँदैन यो सिँढीबाट चढेर आएको तल हेर्न यसरी हेर्नको लागि यस्तो ठाउँ बनाइएको छ अहिले हेर्दा हेर्दै यहाँ क्लिन हुन थाल्यो पहिलाको भन्दा अलिकति बढी देखिन थाल्यो यो सानो टुक्रा यो 500 वर्षभन्दा पुरानो हुनसक्छ अरे यो अझ माथि आउँदै गएपछि झन् राम्रो सिनिक भ्यू देखिन्छ यहाँबाट यो जुन यो कालो जमिन छ यहाँनिरबाट यहाँसम्म 2018 सम्म चाहिँ नि ठुलो आइस थियो अरे यस्तै तर अहिले क्लाइमेट चेन्ज र विभिन्न कारणले गर्दाखेरि मेल्ट भएर यो पुसब्याक भइरहेको छ भनेर गाइडले एक्सप्लेन गरिरहेछ यो ठुलो परिवर्तन हो आइसबर्ग यो कालाफाते ल्यान्ड गर्दाखेरिको दृश्य माथिबाट हेर्दाखेरि यस्तो देखिन्छ एकदमै राम्रो हिउँले भरिएको अहिले यो कालाफाते ल्यान्ड गर्दाखेरिको माथिबाट प्लेनबाट देखिने दृश्य एकदमै राम्रो देखिन्छ यो हिउँले भरिएको माउन्टेन्स र पानीहरूको कम्बिनेसन अर्जेन्टिनाको बुइनो एरिस आएर म कालाफातेमा आएपछि ग्लेसियरको टुर सकेपछि अब यहाँबाट उसवाया भन्ने ठाउँ जाँदैछु यो ठाउँ सानो ठाउँ रहेछ यहाँबाट 2 घन्टा पर्छ उसवाया चाहिँ नि बाई बाई कालाफाते उसवाया सी यू नेक्स्ट यो ठाउँ ठाउँमा आएको बेलामा एउटा सिनियर टुर गाइडले यो घरको बारेमा छोटो हिस्ट्री राम्ररी बताइरहनु भएको छ।
We have to go back to 1520. We could go back earlier, but we start at 1520 because then was when Patagonia was discovered. It was a Spanish expedition with a Portuguese captain, Magellan. The chronicler was in Italian, Antonio Pigafetta, and they came to this place situated south at the end of the world, looking for a connection between the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. And later they found that connection, which is the Strait of Magellan. But before they found the strait, they spent part of the winter at the shore of this province of Santa Cruz, so around 400 kilometers to the east. And there they met the original people, really tall people, big feet. They gave them the name of Patagon, because, well, at the beginning it was Portuguese, Patagon, because Patagon is the big foot. That is why Patagonia is big food land. And they also discovered that in Patagonia there is no gold, there is no silver, and there are no precious stones, and therefore there were no colonies in Patagonia because they didn't find anything to take from Patagonia. So Patagonia remained wild. Meanwhile, from the northern limit from Patagonia to what today is Canada, there were different colonies, not only the Spaniards, the Brits, the French, the Portuguese, etc., etc. But Patagonia was a wild place. Argentina and Chile were back in that time not independent countries, they were colonies, but they were two separated colonies, separated by the Andes. So when both countries became independent at the beginning of the 19th century, they took the same limit, the Andes, but not in Patagonia, because in Patagonia there weren't any colonies, there weren't any maps, nobody knew where the mountains were, so Patagonia remained wild even until the end of the 19th century. We're not so far away. And it happened that Argentina and Chile began to discuss about where the border should be at the last quarter of the 19th century. And that was the time when the famous Perito Moreno arrived to this place, not the glacier, the person after the glacier was named. He was an Argentinian explorer, and he was the person that was in charge of making the researches and the maps. So he gave the Argentinian government the first maps, and now the government was able to send people to settle and show sovereignty. And obviously Argentina wanted to send Argentinians, but it happened that in that time, nobody, not only in that time, also now, not so many people want to come to Patagonia to stay here, to live here. And at that time, nobody wanted to come. But from 1890, the first big European immigration wave arrived to Patagonia. And all these immigrants came to Argentina, in this case, to start a new life. They left everything behind. And as soon as they arrived in Buenos Aires, the government gave them the Argentinian citizenship. So even if they couldn't speak Spanish, because not everyone came from Spain, they came from everywhere in Europe, they were Argentinians. And to these new Argentinians, the government offered the land here in South Patagonia for free. Not a little piece of land, not a little ground, enormous amounts of land, 20,000 hectares for one family. That was the average. The reason for that is the dryness. Forget where we are here, forget this green grass, forget the rain. Remember where Calafate is, it's really, really dry. In Santa Cruz, we need 4 hectares for one sheep. And in some places even more. So 20,000 hectares was something normal to survive. And all these people brought the sheep because at the same time, England was in the middle of the Industrial Revolution and needed raw materials. So the raw materials that Patagonia offered to them, wool. So these people came here, they introduced the cattle, they introduced the sheep, but it happened that the last people that arrived around 1914, 1915, they settled in this area where we are now because they all came from Buenos Aires by boat. So the first place where they settled was along the Atlantic, and the people that came later moved to the west. So this was the last place. They found here some wild cows. Where did these cows come from? A couple of decades before all these people came here, there was someone in Buenos Aires that thought we have to send cows to Patagonia because when people settle there, they will find them and have something to do. The cows came too early and they became wild in this area and they settled here because it's green and beautiful. So when these pioneers arrived to this area, they found the cows, they catch them, they tame them, and they began to raise not only sheep, also cattle in this area. The house was part of one estancia, was part of a ranch. This is what we call puesto, like in the sign, because in the estancias in Argentina, they are huge. So they are divided. And there is a place where the main house of the estancia is, where everyone lives, but there are also houses alone in the middle of nowhere where the gauchos will spend the summer close to the animals to control them. This is puesto. So someone lived here controlling the animals. But the national park was created in 1937. When the government gave to these people the land, they gave them the land under a kind of leasing. So 30 years long, paying taxes without getting the papers until they got the time. But the national park was created before. Nobody had the time, so nobody get the papers in this area. And the government gave them two options. They could stay, take the animals out, and start to work with tourism, which sounds fantastic today, good money. But in 1937, when the national park was created, there wasn't even a road. The first road was built in 1968. So just 3 families stayed, and the rest of the people left. But the question was, you leave and you take your animals with you. What did they do? They took the sheep because they paid for the sheep. They didn't take the cows because the cows were for free. And the transport is really expensive because the only way to come and live is by boat. So they took the sheep, they left the cows, they became wild again. And they are a really big problem for the national park because now you see the beautiful green grass. When the snow comes, there is no grass, so the only green thing that the cows will find to eat are the leaves of the newborn evergreen beeches. They don't allow them to grow. All these trees are old. This is an old forest. There is no replacement for these old trees. The second problem is that the cows roll to get rid of the parasites. You will notice where the sign with the arrow is, you have to take that way down then. There is a big hole. This is a place where the cows roll. They destroyed all the vegetation. And the other problem, the third problem, is that there is a native deer, a kind of little Bambi with short horns, and they are really shy. And the cows are really aggressive, and they are also really territorial. So all these deers left, and we can bring them back to the area if the cows are still here, because they will suffer the stress, they won't eat, they will die. So in 1990, the national government started a campaign to take all these wild cattle out of the national park. And so the government made an agreement with the person that was in charge, and that person brought people to live in different puestos along the national park to catch the cows and take them out alive, because the government doesn't pay. So the only way to make money is by selling the meat. The only way you can sell the meat officially is slaughtering the animals in an official slaughterhouse. So you have to put the animals alive in a boat, take them to Punta Bandera, where we started, and then by truck to the slaughterhouse. The persons that came to live in this house, it was a family. Harry Hilden, he was born in Finland, 1932, and he came to Argentina 1950 with just 18 years. And he came straight to Patagonia, and he learned how to be a gaucho. And he worked here as a gaucho all his life. One of the estancias where he worked, he met a Chilean woman, they married, got 2 children. By the time they came here, Harry was already 58 years old. The daughter stayed with her husband and family, and the family came here, Harry, the wife, and the son. And they stayed here for 6 years. Harry was really clever. Because instead of going up the mountain and trying to catch the cows with a lasso like a cowboy, he knew that in Argentina we lack of iodine in the soil. So the only way for the animals to get that mineral that they can get from the grass is by licking salt. So he put salt inside the corral. The cows came down the mountain by themselves to get the salt. Then he closed the corral so they could chill. And then the boat came and took the cows out. That lasted 6 years, 1990 to 96. On 96, the person that was in charge of all the thing had an issue with the authorities of the national. We don't know what happened, but we know something happened because from that moment, everyone back home. Nobody stay here to catch the cows. Harry as well, and he died on 2018 in El Calafate. The same year, the government decided to start again this campaign. So now, in some specific places in the national park, there is people catching the cows, shooting the cows in some places, and trying to make the national park free of this wild cattle. It's really difficult. The only thing that I can tell you is that, for example, in this national park, there are supposedly around 5,000 wild cows, and in the whole southern Patagonia, Argentina and Chile, just 1,500 huemules from these years. So it's really unbalanced, but it's really necessary to be done because the huemul is endangered and the cows, well, there are plenty of them, so they have to take them out. But imagine how difficult this is. They are really well adapted. They can climb the mountains like goats. They have longer hair to survive the winter. So they are really, really good adapted at this place. And it's difficult to find them. So I invite you to come back in 10 years. Maybe I can show you a beautiful green newborn forest and the huemules, this kind of bambis jumping around. Or we could organize a safari, catch a couple of cows and make an asado here in situ.